Hello everybody, welcome back. I hope I'm audible right now. And if I'm not wrong, alrighty, it turns out that I can be muted. Am I too loud or not? Okay, never mind. I'll see that. But yeah, it turns out that I can mute myself from here as well, and that's gonna be super helpful. And just a minute. Alrighty, welcome back. And this is how it's gonna be going on anyway. Just a minute, let me adjust myself well. Enough. Ouch. Ooh. Alrighty, I think I'm facing the network issue right now. For some reason that I should not be facing anyway. Okay, never mind. Let's simply continue. And overall, this is how things are gonna be going on. And first of all, I did not really have any plans. Earlier, I used to just make the shops thing get recorded like this. The another benefit of having a channel on YouTube, you can just simply go live on anything. Anyway, all these streams are just simply private, so let me just simply delete them. Just like that. I hope they are being deleted. And let me reload the page as well. And from today onwards, I'm gonna be going live. Doesn't matter how it goes, because if you are running the shop, it's definitely you will have to handle the customers as well. That simply means I'll have to mute myself, and don't know how many times I'll have to do that. But never mind, here we are. We'll just simply go ahead and do our best. Okay, because if I do not go live and do not discuss the things and all, then things I start forgetting the things, to be honest, and that is why I have to just simply keep going on. And apart from this particular thing, I hope I'm audible. Be honest, and that is why I have to just. Okay, makes sense. So without any further delay, everybody, let's simply get started. And finally, here we are. No doubt we will be taking breaks in, not breaks actually. The mic will be muted. But before that, let me see if I'm audible. If I just mute myself from here. So just a sec. Just, but before that, let alrighty, going what audible again. I was just simply checking whether I'm audible if I just simply mute myself, and turns out alrighty, going it does make sense. So without any further delay, let's simply go on. And the sound was quite too harsh, but okay, never mind. So what are we gonna be doing next? The simple thing is that we are gonna be talking about Vitest over here, and this is how the things are gonna be managed. So without any further delay, let's simply spin up a few things. First of all, the notes, because of course with the help of them only I'm gonna be just simply going through everything, and then we'll be just simply getting the remaining things done as well. So it turns out we have a lot to do. So when it comes to unit testing, so of course we'll be just simply going through the intro part, and this is how we are gonna be just simply going through the things. Of course I will not be able to show all the slides because I may get copyright strike because of that. So let's simply forget about all these things. Just a sec. Okay, as for these pictures and all, forget them, forget about them, because the main focus is of course not gonna be on them. So we will be mainly going through the test section, and we'll try to get the things done this way. So mainly from here onwards we are just simply gonna be going ahead, and example codes are the one that are needed here. So example code from YouTube, that simply means I watched the YouTube video and then I got this example code. Alrighty, let's simply have a quick look at this. So we have a function greeting in English, greeting in Hindi, dependency injection, that simply means there are some dependencies, so we'll have to take care of them. Dependencies dot process dot payment. So where is this dependency coming from? This is nothing but a function. Okay, that's fine. It gets a function and then just simply calls that. Process payment, okay, that's fine. Snapshot, so there is something called snapshot, okay, fine. Process payment gets the amount, does something and returns that, okay, fine. Then let's talk about the app.test.js. This is the mainly test file here, and first of all what we are doing, expected, actual, I'm gonna be discussing those things which are a bit hard to understand. That simply means you need to know what is being discussed here. So assert, deep, strict, equal. So ultimately directly Jest is not even Jest, node test is being used over here. Jest is just a library that you can use, and then similarly we have Vitest with us as well, so any one of them can be used, and this is the most basic way to just simply get the things done. So deep, strict, equal, expected, that's fine. This is easy, so we will not be talking about them. If there's something, ultimately what am I doing, let me even discuss briefly. So this is just a normal test over here. There are three things that we have to take care of: arrange, act, and assert. That simply means first of all we'll have to arrange. Ultimately we'll have to have some of the values that we are gonna be just simply just a minute. Alrighty, welcome back, and this is what happens when you do two things at a time, but okay, never mind, we will have to go through it anyway. So arrange means just arrange everything. Arrange everything means if you need some of the values, just have them. Act means once you have everything ready, just simply start acting. Acting in the sense do whatever needs to be done. And assert means at the end of the day just apply some of the methods, check whether the result that you got, that's exactly the right one or not. So ultimately you have to arrange the values, you have to act in the sense you start testing and all, and at the end of the day check the result whether that's as per the expected output or not. Okay, so this is how we are gonna be going ahead. So this expected value that we have, hello world, this is the arrange section. That simply means here we have this particular string in a variable, so we have arranged this, and then this is where we are just simply running the test, or we are just simply testing, not even, yeah, we are running a function, and on the basis of that we'll check whether it actually got succeeded or not. So greeting in English, this is just a function where in this particular place we are just simply acting, and lastly we are just simply asserting in the sense in reality checking whether whatever we acted on or upon, whatever, that worked as expected or not. So here we are just simply checking the result at the end of the day. So arrange, act, and assert in the sense checking the result. So this is how it just simply goes on. So first of all we are just simply checking whether this greet function actually returned some expected value or not. So we are just simply passing world from here, and it actually returned hello world. Expected is hello world, and at the end of the day that should return hello world. If that does not, of course there's an error. Okay, and greeting returns correct greeting in Hindi, same this goes for Hindi as well. So ultimately this thing gets done. And node test, ultimately there are three things. There is node directly that just simply provides you APIs for testing. Then there is Jest, and there is Vitest. Let's talk about Jest here. Let's go through it a bit more. Just unit testing. Let's see, we'll find something. I think we'll have to install Jest anyway. The same way you will have to install Vitest. Both the things, they need to be installed. And docs. So yeah, it turns out that you will have to install Jest and Vitest. What is Vitest? Vitest is another library for just Vitest is another library for testing, unit testing and all. So Vitest is here, even Jest is here. You can use any one of them. Even when it comes to Vitest, so Vitest is Vitest covers everything that Jest covers. So it's like Vitest has all the features, most of the features, just like a Jest only. so you will not have to worry about anything. It's just like Vitest may have some more features, I don't know. Yeah, Vitest definitely has some more features than Jest. And when it comes to implementations, most of the implementations are same. There are some edge cases that you will have to cover, otherwise yeah, things are same. Okay, so this is how it just simply goes on. And lastly, the third thing, first is Jest, second is Vitest, and third we have Node here. And Node gives us APIs or ways to just create arrange, act, and assert on, or I mean by the node side itself. So ultimately what happens is that from the node test you can directly get the test suite and describe what is test for testing. You can use it in place of this. We have suite, you can use describe. So suite and describe, they are more or less same. Similarly it and test, they are more or less same. And ultimately you are gonna be getting it from node test. That simply means you do not need to install it. That makes sense. Good stuff. Okay, by the way, this is how it just simply goes on. Similarly we have order here. This is the describe, this is the suite. Suite is nothing but a combination. So like it is sort of a group that just simply groups all the tests that you have. So ultimately you may have many tests that may belong to one particular category, so you can group them using describe or suite. So this is how you can just simply go on. And then there is something called mocking and spy. Spy in the sense, again, spy is what? Spy, there are something called spy functions. So you can create a spy functions. Why do you need to have spy functions? Because suppose you have a function, okay, that function itself is calling another function. Now if that function is calling another function was of course made by you, so in that case there's gonna be dependency injection, means one function depends on another. So the better way is that again I will be showing the examples for sure. I will definitely have the example. So what am I calling here? Just a minute. Mock dot function strict equal mocked process, not this one. I hope I'm gonna be getting something worth looking at. Yeah, process order. So let's simply go through the process order section. So do we have process order here? Yeah, this is the process order we have. So ultimately, not process order I'm talking about, yeah, here it is. So ultimately what is happening, this process order actually gets dependencies, and that dependencies is actually, I mean, that dependency has a method called process payment, and that is being called here. So ultimately one function has another function, and that's being called inside that particular function. In that particular case, what's gonna happen, that whenever we are just simply testing, so instead of calling that main function, instead of instead of calling the main function, we will be creating a spy function from our on side. And in this way what will happen mainly, that that is spy function will be called instead of the main function being called, because our main goal is not calling the function. Our main goal is mainly testing the code whether that works correctly or not, and hence it's better to just simply create the spy functions and all. So there are two things, mocking and spy. And there is some another thing, stubs, just like mock, but used for just returning data. That's it. Okay, I'll have to just simply go through it even better. But okay, what we are doing over here, mocked or function. And again, when you are just simply mocking a function, but here we are actually mocking a function, that's crazy. We are just simply create a spy function as well. I have to go through it. It's not like I know it. I'll have to sort of learn more. Okay, never mind. We are just simply creating a mock function. That simply means this is just a function that's been created just for mocking the same functionality. Okay, and here we are gonna be getting an amount. Once we get the amount, we'll be doing something or the other, and at the end of the day we are gonna be just simply returning. So this is just a mock function that we have created. The same way we had actually the real function. This process order was sort of the real function, but here what process payment actually, but okay. Excuse me, it needs to be said. Okay, but ultimately we've created a mocked function, and that particular function will be just simply given to the process order. So ultimately I'm giving the amount over here, and I'm giving this like a mocked process payment. So instead of giving it the main function that actually works, we are just simply giving it the mocked function that we've created, mainly because we don't care whether I mean this particular process order, this is the function that we are checking, right? And this function has dependency function as this one. So we do not need to just simply keep checking functions over functions. We are just simply checking the main function, and for the dependency function we are just simply creating a mock function. So this is how it just simply goes on, and hopefully it doesn't make sense, because of course the way I'm telling it, it's not gonna be making any sense. But okay, never mind. I hope I turned the chats off, because I will not be able to. Yeah, that's better. And after that, there is something called deep strict equal result, and you can just simply here check the things whether they are as expected or not. And this is how the things go on. Lastly, we have test user.test.js. What we are doing over here, we are fetching the data. Once we fetch the data, we are just simply taking the snapshot. Taking a snapshot in the sense, whatever data you've got, you are gonna be taking the snapshot of that, and based on that particular snapshot, you are gonna be checking again in future that the data that you got, whether that's exactly as the like same as the snapshot or not. Alrighty, never mind. This was all about node test, like using node, how you can just simply test your APIs and all. This is not something we are gonna be mainly focusing on. We are gonna be focusing on what? We are gonna be focusing on Vitest, how this Vitest works and all. But before that, the thing that you have to keep in mind that this is how the configuration should go on. First of all, if you just directly use, first of all, you need to have some scripts, right, so that you can run npm test and it should run. Anyway, coming back to this one, this is the first script that we have. And talking about this test watch, if you are just simply using Vitest, that simply means it's gonna be watching your changes. So whenever you are testing, so what actually happens that your test should run once and that should just simply exit. But if you just simply run Vitest, that simply means it's gonna just simply keep watching the changes that you make and will keep just simply testing everything. When you run just simply Vitest and run, that simply means it will run once and that is it. Reported and verbose means it's gonna be verbosely result is gonna be verbosely printed or logged. So ultimately, if you want to know everything exactly what happened, so you can just simply use this verbose property here. That simply means if you do not use verbose, you will be just simply getting like these many checks got succeeded and failed. If you are using verbose, you are gonna be getting the description of those checks as well. So this is how it just simply goes on. And when it comes to testing them, so first of all we have this function, and when it comes to just simply testing this function, pretty much easy peasy. We have to just simply check this particular we have to use this function and check whether the same sum is returned or not. So ultimately it just simply gets an array of numbers, adds them, and just simply returns. So ultimately when it comes to summarizing, so this is arrange, this is the number that we have, this is where we are just simply acting, like we are just simply calling that particular function. Then we got the result. Once we got the result, we are just simply checking whether we got the same result or not. So expect result. So ultimately we are expecting the result to be the expected result. What is the expected result? Expected result is nothing but the sum of all the numbers, and we are just simply checking over here. So this is the arrange, this is the act, and this is the asserting thing. Okay, ultimately this is how we are gonna be having many functions, many tests here, but we are not gonna be talking about them. Ultimately you have three things: act, actually arrange, act, and assert. Act means, arrange means just simply arrange the values that you need to have. Act means, I mean, use call that particular function whatever you are testing. And arrange, assert means just simply check whether everything went right or not. So this is the one of the first things that got done. And apart from this particular thing, we have the second numbers transformation. Same thing we are doing here. We have this number transformation. We just simply pass it a value, and that value is a plus value means it just simply makes it an integer. So we are going to be passing a string. That string will be converted to an integer, and we have to check whether that everything is converted to an integer. Hence we are going to be doing the same thing. We have the input, we are just simply calling it, and we are just simply checking the type of that, whether the type is actually number or not. So this is how it just simply goes on. And again, these things are pretty much easy peasy. That is why I'm not going through them much here, but you better just simply know more about them. Okay, but ultimately the main goal was to just simply go through the things once at least, discuss them, and that's what being done here. So this is the second thing that got done. And the third thing is the validation. Similarly you will have a function here. This is one of the functions, this is the another function. Ultimately what happens here, if everything goes right, if it doesn't throw the error, if something goes wrong, it just simply throws the error. And hence you have to just simply check whether the error is thrown. If the error is thrown, something went wrong, otherwise things are fine. Just a minute, give me a second and I'll be back. Alrighty, hopefully I'm visible. Yeah, I am. The thing is that even my webcam is out of order. It is just somehow working. I have to just simply do a lot of crazy stuff to just simply make it work, but okay, somehow it's working right now. Okay, coming back to this one, we are just simply gonna be giving it what? We'll be giving it value. Validate string empty or not. So once the value is given, if that is empty, it will just simply throw the error. If that is not empty, just a minute, value dot string dot length is equal to 0, throw in a must not be empty. Yeah. So if the value is actually empty, it is just simply gonna be throwing the error. That simply means we need to have the expected values, and then we need to have just simply check. I use this particular function, and then we have to test. Coming back to this one, what we are doing. This is the expected value, ultimately empty string, and this is where we are just simply checking. But the thing is that validate string, not empty input. This is the function that we are calling, and if you directly call a function and that function throws the error, then that's gonna be problematic. That simply means you will not be able to test, simply because this function threw the error. In that case, you will have to use a try catch block. That is also one of the ways anyway. So like keeping this particular function inside a try catch block is better, is another way. And the next thing is that instead of keeping it inside try catch block, create a arrow function. So this is just one of the arrow functions here, and inside that just simply call that particular function. So what is the benefit of it? We have this arrow function as the validation function, and then we can expect that particular function, and we can check whether that particular function throws the error or not. So this is just the upper level function that we have created, and inside this particular function, this main function is being called, and this main function is actually going to be throwing the error. Hence, once we have validation function, so we are going to be checking whether inside this validation function, of course this is where this is what inside this is what is inside that, and if inside this particular function ultimately this particular function is being called, so ultimately I'm checking whether the error is being thrown or not. Crazy stuff, but yeah, this is how it just simply goes. And even you can just simply give it a specific message if you want. And apart from this particular thing, I should have used the try catch block as well. Well, I haven't really used it here, but there's another way that instead of creating an arrow function over here just like this we are doing here, you can just simply wrap this particular function inside a try catch block, and this will just simply do the job. So this is another thing that we had to just simply go through. Okay, so we've gone through all these examples. Let's go through the section number 4, and that is all about writing good tests. Forget about good tests. I can't even show them well here because of course they are not my pictures and all. I haven't created them. I just simply taken screenshots and all. But let's talk about this one. So what we are doing here, so we have this function here, generate result text calculation result. Just a minute. Calculation result invalid input this, otherwise this. Wait, just a sec. Calculation result. Okay, ultimately we are gonna be doing some kinds of calculation, and if invalid is written, that simply means something went wrong, otherwise everything went right, and that is it. You don't really need to worry about it. And when it comes to result text, output document, output text content, and result text, we are getting the data from the output. Whatever the data we've got, we are just simply passing it through this particular function to check whether the data that we got that was invalid or that was actually some real data and all. Okay, that's fine. Coming back to this one, what we are doing over here, so ultimately we have two functions here. First function is just simply get the value, second function just simply check whether that's invalid or not. Coming back to this one, we have a few values over here. We are just simply passing them to the same function, and we are just simply checking the result. If first of all the first one is gonna be right, second one is also gonna be right, but the third one is not gonna be right, that's gonna be invalid, because if something is invalid, of course that's not gonna make sense at all. Okay, so ultimately this is how we are just simply going on. To be precise, we have this arranged values here. We are just simply acting over here, and we are just simply asserting the values. That simply means checking. So this thing is done as well, so let's simply get rid of this as well. And what is the next thing? We have to just simply keep going through them verbally, and I think mocking any spice till this particular section we have to just simply go on. Integrating tests. What did I learn after that? First of all, we've talked about switch, describe, test, it, and act, arrange, act, and assert, all these things. Let's continue with this one. fifth number section, we are just simply gonna be going through the example that I've kept here. So ultimately what we are doing in this particular section, transform to number, gets a string, transforms it to a number. That's pretty much simple. Clean numbers in the sense it just simply gets string types numbers, and then it's gonna be just simply converting them into what? Does it convert? Just a minute. Number input, number, validate string not empty. Yeah, it does convert them to a number, and once they are converted to a number, they are pushed back to the numbers array, and at the end of the day that's simply returned. So what is actually gonna happen over here, that you will get an array of numbers in the form of strings. So they will not be real numbers, like they will be type of string numbers, and then those type of string numbers are actually gonna be converted into real numbers using this particular function, and at the end they are gonna be pushed into an array, and they are gonna be just simply returned. So what we are gonna be doing here, there are a few things. First of all, we have this dependency function over here. We are calling validate string not empty. Then we have this transform to number. That simply means we can even use spy functions over here. We can even mock it. Mocking is mainly used for built-in modules and all, if I'm not wrong, but we'll see. At least that's what I've seen in the Vitest. Okay, by the way, we have described expect it from this. Pretty simple. We have this input. Okay, and once we have should transform. Okay, we are just simply checking whether it is actually transforming or not. So we are checking we are testing the first function over here. So ultimately we are passing the things, we are calling it, and then we are checking the type. Pretty simple. So it will just simply keep going and on. Let's talk about the second one. So in the second one, we are actually gonna be passing an array. So we are passing an array of 2 string types numbers, and then we are just simply passing them in through clean numbers. And once we pass through them, we are gonna be getting the number array with the numbers as the input values or items inside that, and we are just simply gonna be getting the first index, and the value of the first index should be type of number. So that's what we are just simply checking over here. If there's an empty string, of course it's just simply gonna be throwing the error, and whenever something throws the error, we have to just simply keep that inside a arrow function, and that's what we've done here. The another way is that just simply use try catch block. You can actually do that. So both the options are here, but this is how just simply mainly goes on. The important thing that you have to keep in mind, and that is this clean numbers. This definitely has the dependency functions as well. So whenever you call this clean function, clean number, so validate a string not empty and transform to number, both of them are actually being called here. So the another thing that can be that you can make it as dependency functions, like you just simply pass these functions here as parameters over here, and then create a spy function, and then just simply pass that spy function instead of using these main functions. This is also something that can be done, but it's completely up to you whether you want to do that or not. Okay, by the way, this thing is done as well, wasn't quite much. So we've gone through all these sections, and lastly we have this advanced testing concepts, where we are actually gonna be talking about what? That is something I don't know, so let's simply figure it out. So first of all, we have the same thing. We have the transform number, we have clean numbers and all, and at the end of the day, what we are doing at the end of the day, let me see if I'm doing something here, or it's exactly the same. There must be some differences. Okay, this is the only difference. Earlier what I was doing, I was just simply checking the 0th index, and if the type of the 0th index is a number. The another thing is that there is a difference between 2b and 2b equal. When it comes to 2b, 2b just simply checks the real value, so they should be exactly the same. So when it comes to arrays, so two arrays are not the same, because there is something called reference. So even if two arrays look the same, they are gonna be having different reference points, right? They will have ultimately different references. So whenever you use 2b, so 2b just simply checks the reference of the array. So the reference of this particular array and the reference of this cleaned numbers array that I had, the reference of both of them are different, hence they are not gonna be equal. That is why it will not work. In case if you just want to check the values, not the reference, so you had better use 2 equal. So there is a difference between 2b and 2 equal. 2b just simply checks the reference, and 2 equal just simply checks the value. So this is how it just simply goes on, and that is why it was just simply be used here. Pretty simple. So this is one of the first things that we've gone through. So example number 1 is done. Let's go through the example number 2, and that is interesting actually. So what we are doing in the example number 2, that we have a generate function over here that it just simply generates the token that doesn't even return anything anyway. It just simply gets a function as a dependency function. So this done function is just a dependency function, and once we have a dependency function over there, we can just simply create a spy function from our own side instead of calling the main function, and the job will be done. So this is the first function, that is just simply creating a JWT token, has the secret and has the done function. In this particular done function, you can pass the main function as well, whatever main function you have, or you can actually create a spy function that will be just simply spying, that will be just simply passed in the place of this particular function, and will be just simply called over here. And whatever function is called over here in the JW, whenever you are signing it, so you are gonna be getting the error if there's any error, and you are gonna be getting the token if there's any token, and ultimately this is how the things go on, right? So ultimately this is how the overall things look like. So whatever function you pass, there should be this kind of function, so that you are actually getting the token over here. So we will be taking care of this thing. Okay, so this particular thing is done. Similarly, we have the another one as well. We'll be talking about this later, but first of all, let's talk about the first one. So what we are doing in the first one, we have this like a normal Gmail, and once we have this like testing Gmail, once we have this, we are just simply calling generate token, and then we are passing that Gmail, we are passing this particular function over here. So this function is actually being passed. What is this function? Call it a function that you have created. This suppose this is the main function, because this does look like that. You can even create a spy function anyway, but ultimately this is the function that I have created to test whether that actually works or not. So when it comes to this, so we are just simply expecting the token, that whatever the token that we are getting from here, that should be defined. That simply means the JWT should be creating the token. So we are passing the email, we are passing this particular function, and this particular function actually gets called here at the end. So this done function I'm talking about, and in that particular done function you are gonna be getting error and token, and you are just simply checking whether there was token, and if there was token, that's fine, and then done. What is this done? This, whenever this done is called, done means this test got done. Ultimately everything got checked, and that is it. It should exit from here, and we are gonna be getting this done from this particular callback over here. So this done is nothing but like a callback that is being called at the end. The question is, why do you need to call this done? Because if you do not call this done, sometimes what will happen, whenever you are generating the JWT tokens and all, they take some time, they are asynchronous, and hence even if they are not asynchronous, they take some time, as simple as that. So whenever generating token does take time, and what will happen whenever you are running this particular test, so it will just directly run, and once this directly runs, it doesn't wait for the token to be generated, hence that's not gonna be defined. And that is why you need to use this done over here, that first of all run this particular thing, then call done, and done means it exited. Otherwise, until unless done is called, it will not exit. So ultimately this test will not exit. So this is how it just simply goes on. And the another way is that expect the token to be 2. Okay, what we are doing over here, we are expecting the token to be 2. The token can never be 2. That simply means it's gonna be throwing the error, and when it throws the error, it's gonna be whenever I'm gonna be just simply passing this error to done. I'm just simply passing it so that my Vitest, it just simply knows about the error. And the question is that why are we even doing this much? Why are we calling this done over here, and why are we just simply passing the error over here in the done? Simple thing is that when you just directly run any function inside the it, ultimately test directly inside the test, it will Vitest will be able to catch the error. But what you are doing over here, you have generate token, that is a function. Inside that you are just simply passing another function, and inside that you are just simply checking the you are just simply asserting the things, you are just simply checking the things. Hence it will not directly be picked by Vitest, and that is why you need to use this done over here. And if there's any error thrown, so you have to pass forget about this even done, because this done can be used outside as well. But the important thing is that if there's any error thrown over here, if you want to catch that particular error, you will have to pass the error to the done function, callback function, so that it's actually picked by Vitest, because directly Vitest picks it, but you are not using it, this expected token to be true. If it was used inside this directly, then okay, it's fine. but as it's being used inside this particular function, it will not be picked by Vitest. Hence you will have to just simply pass it to the done function so that Vitest actually picks it up. Wow, quite too much, yeah. Never mind, this is how it just simply goes on. Okay, so you can definitely use a try catch block and make sure that you are using done over here. And this is whatever I'm discussing, that's mainly for you, that I should be using it like that, but okay, never mind. And once apart from this particular thing, you can even keep this particular function inside a try catch block, so that in case if you get some errors, errors gonna be passed to the Vitest. So that is something you can done as well. So this is one of the first ways. Again, you have another like test case over here. We are just simply gonna be talking about them, but this is one of the things. So ultimately what we are doing, we have a function that just simply takes another function as a dependency. So we are just simply creating a function, and inside that particular function we are actually getting the token, and we are just simply testing the stuff and all. So this is one of the first way. What is then another way? The another way is that whenever you are creating a JWT token, create a promise, return a promise, and the job will be done. Let me see that. Here what we are doing, that we are doing the same thing. We are just simply we have a promise, and whenever the token gets generated, so if there's any errors, of course we are gonna be rejecting it. Otherwise, if that's resolved, then that's it. We don't really need to worry about anything. So the token is actually being generated over here, and once the token is actually generated, it is actually being resolved. And once it is actually resolved, so I'm resolving it with the token. That simply means I'm returning the promise here. Returning the promise in the sense, whenever I'm gonna be awaiting the promise, it already has this token, so I should be getting the token there. So the first way was this. In the first way, I was just simply passing a function here, and inside that particular function, of course, I would be getting the stuff and all. But that is sort of a dependency function that we had. We could have created a function from our own side. And the another thing is that we are actually passing a promise from here, like returning a promise from here, and that simply means we have two options: async and await. If you know that, of course you must be. And the another thing is that using there is something called expect, and then again let me show you that in action, then it will make more sense. So over here there are two ways. First of all, you actually call it like this. So what you are doing here, that you are just simply calling the particular function, passing the email, awaiting it so that it actually gets done. You got the token, and you are just simply checking the token to be defined. So this is the first way. What is the another way? The another way is that directly call the function inside the expect, and once you calls that, just simply call resolves. And what is this resolves? It just simply make sure that it gets this resolve parameter over here. So there are two things: there is reject and there is resolve, right? So what you are doing, that you are just simply testing that expect this particular function to be resolved. So ultimately it should resolve, and the token that you are gonna be getting, that should be defined. As simple as that. So whenever this particular function runs, so ultimately we are just simply expecting this particular function to run, and at the end of the day it's gonna be resolved, and whenever it gets resolved, it returns the token. When it returns the token should be defined. That's what we are just simply checking over here. This is how it just simply goes on. So there are two ways or three ways. First one is that use the dependency function. Even you can create spy functions for that. So ultimately what happens, that this particular function takes a function. So we are just simply creating that particular function. We can even we could have created spy functions as well. We are gonna be going through them. And the another thing is that use promises. That promise is gonna be returned, and when that promise is returned, so there are two ways. Either you can call the promise directly inside the expector, and then you will have to make sure that whether you are actually expecting it to resolve or expecting it to reject, and whatever test you are going to be running at the end. And the another thing is that you try async and await, and the job will be done. Okay, so this thing we've gone through this, so pretty much simple. And lastly we have this hook stuff. What is hook? Pretty simple. Ultimately when it comes to hooks, these are the hooks: before all, before each, after each, and after all. Before all will be running before all the tests. Before each will be running before each test. So this is the first one, this is the second one, so it is gonna be running before each. After each will be running after each test, and after all will be running after all the tests have been passed. So this is like after all the tests have been checked. So this is how this simply goes on. Pretty simple, right? I'm gonna be discussing about the things verbally only, because there are a number of things, like many things to just simply talk about. Okay, never mind. So this is how, anyway, this was all about hooks. This second section was all about what? This second section was all about, I don't know. So let me just simply have a look here. Dependency injection promise, dependency function, and promise. Alright, this is how we are just simply gonna be going ahead. And what are we talking about here? We are just, this is just a normal test. Okay, that's fine. Again, this is one of the like, this is my way. I just simply keep all my code in my notes, so that whenever I need to just simply go through them, I can just simply go through them. By the way, dependency, this is how it just simply should go on. Last, that is mocking and spige. This is where forget about the, okay, I haven't even added here, so we need to edit. So let me do one thing. Where can I have that? Just a minute. I have the function, like I have the code written, I have to just simply save it somewhere. So, oh, it turns out that shit. Just a sec. Nope. Testing. This is where we have the code. So ultimately the code for spige and mocking. So we are gonna be just simply talking about those things verbally, and once we've talked about them, then that is it. We are gonna be saving it in the notes. So when it comes to this, so we have a few things over here, and the first thing is this app.js here. Of course, we are not doing anything. Generate reported data. So this is just a function that just simply returns the data and stores the data. What is this log? This log is just simply passed as a function over here. So this is a dependency function. So if I actually show this thing to you, so this log is just a dependency function. So as the end of the day, this log function is just simply called over here, and it is mainly used for logging the things, and it is just simply returning the data. So whenever this particular function is called, it is returning the data, and we are passing this particular log function that is actually called here at the end of the day. And what this log does, this just simply logs the value. Pretty simple. So ultimately, whenever this log function is called here, it just simply gets this data, logs that data, and returns the data. So this is how this simply goes on. And then we have stored data. This is stored data does what? It just simply gets the data, whatever is being returned from here. So ultimately this dummy data is gonna be returned from here, and as that's returned from here, it's gonna be what? It's gonna be stored. So first of all, I'm checking whether I got the data or not, and then I'm writing the data. So this is the data, and this should be the file name ultimately. And when it comes to writing, so of course we are gonna be using FS module over here. So we are just simply creating the path, and once the path is created, we are just simply writing it using the FS module. As simple as that. We've gone through them. This is all about the simple logic. We haven't even switched to the which section? The testing section. So let's test the stuff over here. So when it comes to testing, so we have this. Let's test the data. Generate report data. Okay, let's simply check this one first of all. So what we are doing here, first of all, when it comes to this data.js, so we have generate report data, we have store data, right? So we are gonna be just simply checking whether that is actually generating the data properly or not. And when it comes to just generate data, it actually gets a log function. That simply means it gets a dependency function. So what we can actually do, that we can actually create a spy function that will be passed, and then we are gonna be checking whether that particular function got logged or not. So we have to pass a function that can be a spy function. We have to actually make sure that that function actually gets called, and then the data is returned. So inside the test, we have to test all these things. So what we are doing over here, using vi.fn, ultimately a spy function is created. So this is the spy function that I was talking about. Similarly, in Jest, there, if I'm not wrong, Jest.fn you can use. Again, I'm not sure about it, but there must be something in Jest as well. Let me see. Now mock. Yeah, there is this Jest.fn. You can even pass a function in itself. So this is just an empty function. So this function got created. Inside this particular function, you can even just do your own stuff, whatever you wanna do. So it can just simply get some values, like some parameters ultimately. So it may get x, and it may return x plus 2 and all. I mean, anything may happen here. So at the end of the day, you have this empty function, and you can even customize this particular function as per your need. and this is the spy function that you have. Okay, so you have this spy function over here, and once you have this particular spy function, so instead of passing the log, because this when it comes to this generate, so it was just simply getting a log function, and what we were doing inside app.js, we were actually passing the real log function that was actually doing nothing but logging the stuff. So what we are actually doing here, instead of passing the main log function, we are just simply gonna be passing a spy function over here that we have created. So whenever we are calling generate report data, so ultimately we are passing this particular logger, and this logger is nothing but a spy function. What is the benefit? The benefit is that we can check whether this logger, ultimately this function, was actually called or not. What is our main goal? Our main goal is that we have to check whether the whatever we are passing that actually gets called and the data is returned. Returning the data, it can easily be checked. Checking whether the function that I'm passing that is actually being called, that's after being called, that succeeds or not, that doesn't really matter, right? So the function that we have created, we are just simply passing it over here, and then we can expect logger to be called. This is a property here in here, so it's pretty simple. So we are just simply passing the logger over here, and we are just simply saying that expecting this logger to be called. As simple as that. What is this logger? This logger is just a spy function that we've created. Okay, this is the one of the first things. And the another way is this, that logger.mock implementation once. Mock implementation once in the sense, just a minute, logger.mock implementation once. So either you can just simply run this here. I mean, you can create you can customize this function over here, or you can just simply run logger mock implementation once, and ultimately it will be running only once. So even if you call it twice, I don't think it's gonna be running. So logger mock implementation once means whatever you just define over here, that's gonna be implemented only once. So this is how it's just simply gonna be going on. Just a minute, give me a sec. Alright everybody, welcome back. And as for this thing, I'm actually gonna be knowing more about it from the using ChatGPT, because to be honest, I'm not well aware of this. It was just simply briefly discussed. Even if I ignore this for now, remaining things are pretty much simple. Even you can create customize this particular function that you got. By default, this is just an empty function that you can customize as per your need. And the second thing is this logger.mock implementation once. That simply means even if this test is being called twice, it should be just simply implemented once. I mean, even we have this something called logger.mock implementation. We have mock implementation once we have. So ultimately these are the things that we have, and now I have to see what this particular function does here. Okay, let me just simply comment this, spin up this, and let's simply just ask one of the questions. Again, we'd better just we will be going through the documentation as well, so documentation of Vitest and all, and just even we will be exploring everything. But as for right now, what does this do? Hopefully, here we are. Mock implementation once is method is testing for frameworks like Jest to temporarily replace the implementation of a mocked function for only one call. So yeah, for the next time logger is called, use this implemented function instead, which is empty function, does nothing. After that one call, the mock goes back to its previous implementation. Original mocked. Got it. So ultimately there are two things. You can have a function inside this. I mean, you will be doing something or the other, of course, and you can have a function inside this. So this is actually the original part over here, and this is the mocking part over here. Okay. Come on. Okay, so what are we gonna be doing over here? That whenever I run this particular test, so first of all, this particular function will be running. So whenever I'm gonna be passing this function, so this logger is being passed over here. So ultimately this will be running over here. This particular function is gonna run, and the next time after once we've called this particular test, then the next time onwards this original is gonna be running. So mock implementation means it's just simply gonna be running once, and that is it. So pretty much simple, right? Okay, so this particular thing is done too. And apart from this particular thing, what we can do, even when it comes to this logger, right? So ultimately this logger is nothing but a function that just simply gets the values, and it just simply takes some data that just simply gets logged up. So you can do one thing, that this actually gets some data, and that gets logged, just like this, because at the end of the day this is the function that's being called. So ultimately original and plus data you will be getting. And mocking once, let me do that. You need to have the data here, so let me have the data. And again, where is this data gonna be coming from? This data is gonna be coming from here. So what is this? This is just a function that we've created, right? And this function is actually being passed over here, and whatever is being passed over here, that just simply gets the data here directly. Okay, so if I run the test lscd, and there's a lot that we have to just simply talk about, but if I just simply run npm test, everything passes. Great job. Anyway, if I just simply run, if I add verbose here, what will happen? I need to have reported as well, reporter verbose. So we will be getting the things in the quite in detailed format. So this is the one, and what we checked is just right now, we checked something, right? We just simply checked this particular thing, and it actually worked. Okay, great, let's continue. And this thing we've gone through, even we are just implementing it. And when it comes to logging the values and all, so the value should actually be logged anyway. So here we are just simply getting initially in the first go we are just simply getting this mocking result, and if I call it again, we are still getting the mocking result. I think I need to run it in the watch mode in order to call it again. Yeah, right. So let me remove this run from here. So it's gonna be running in the watch mode anyway. So now if I run this, yeah, so the first time we got mocking here, and if I just simply make some changes in here, so this thing is done. If I come back here, make a few changes, then it got called twice, we are still getting mocking. I don't know how to call it again. Okay, I think it needs to be called here itself. So yeah, now it's gonna be called again. So first of all we are gonna be getting mocking, still mocking, not getting the expected result. So whenever this logger gets called twice, at that time, in the second time, this particular function should run. At that time, how it's gonna be running? Logger gets called twice. This original one is not being called here. The thing is that I don't even know how to call it twice. Crazy stuff, but okay, never mind. So this is just simply gonna be going on. Just a sec. Alright then, I think it's time to just take the help of AI. So this logger needs to be called mocked once. So this. So spy on mock implementation. Do we have to call this like this? Like literally? Logger needs to be called like this. Ah, this thing, yeah, come on. Okay, I think this is where logger is gonna be called twice. and now we are gonna be getting the result as expected. Let's see. And it turns out to be right. First of all, we are getting the mocking. So first of all, mocking is running once and then original is running. So if we just copy paste, so 1 2 3 4 5, so ultimately first time your first time mocking will run and the remaining times original will run. So this is the mocking one and then the original one is running actually at the end. Okay, so that's what we wanted here. So it does make sense. Anyway, let's simply have two of them here. That would be better. Okay, so this particular thing we've gone through as well. So data stuff, how it works, we have even created the spy function. Then we had this like mocked implementation once, so the mocking stuff and all. So we've gone through this and all. And apart from this particular thing, the next thing is that we have to talk about this stuff. So ultimately what we are doing, that we are just simply calling this particular function, and once this particular function is called, we are just simply getting the path and we are writing it. So we have to, again, this is the FS module, this is a built-in module. So it's not really possible to just simply create the spy function for it, right? Creating a spy function means you are creating a function from your own side. As for this particular module, FS module, that's actually a built-in. You will have to somehow do something so that you automatically get the spy functions of all the built-in functions inside this. So this is the built-in module. It will have a lot of functions, and one of the function is write file. Similarly, you will have to make sure that whatever functions it has, they are automatically spied. Like you are gonna be getting the functions automatically, and for that thing you can use something called mocking. So spy means you are creating the spy functions on your own. Mocking means there are built-in modules, you are just simply mocking them. Mocking them means once you mock them, all the functions in that particular module will be become spy functions, and all this mocking stuff has been done by Vitest team or Just team itself, so you don't really need to worry about it. You have to just simply mock it, and hence all the functions, even this write functions, will become spy function. That's gonna be this write function, that's gonna be read file, like all the functions. So if I go to this FS module here, okay, so what all we have here, we have append file, okay, we have change honor, we have not this, I think change honor, create a read stream we have, write stream we have, data sync we have, read we have, these things we have. And again, these are nothing but the interfaces. So we'll wait just a sec. Yeah, the main functions start from here because the upper ones were nothing but the interfaces. So we have close all these things. Just a sec. Copy file we have function, we have open function, we have rename function, truncate function, rmdir function, remove function. So ultimately there are many functions, and creating the spy functions of all these ones is gonna be tedious task, and this task has been done by the Vitest team and Just team itself. So you can just simply mock the function and all the functions will become spy functions. So coming back to this one, let's talk about the test here. This is the important stuff here. So when it comes to test, so we are doing what? We are just simply mocking the vi.mockfs. So what is the benefit of doing this? First of all, we are getting the vi and vi.mock, and what we are mocking? We are mocking FS module. What it happens? Converts everything into spy functions in FS module just for testing. For the testing, when you are actually testing, at that time, all the functions inside FS module, they are actually gonna be converted into spy functions. Hence, the next time should execute. You have the test, you have the test file name, and what you are gonna be doing, what you are actually doing anyway, write data. So you are just simply calling this particular write data, and you are just simply passing the data and passing the file name. And once all these things are done, then what you are expecting? You are expecting FS again. What will happen inside this particular write data? You are calling fs.write file, right? So this particular module, function method is being called from the FS module. But as you have made this FS module, you have mocked this FS module, that simply means this write data will be using mocked FS module over here. So this module will not be the real one, rather it will be mocked one just for the testing purpose. and hence you are gonna be fs.write module, because if you have some functions inside a module, you can just simply check whether they've been called or not. So fs.write module, this is the mock module we are talking about here, and we are just simply gonna be checking whether it's been called. So you can check whether it's been called, you can check it's been called how many number of times, and you can check whether it's been called with a particular value, because whenever it's being called, just a sec, not this one, whenever this write function is being called, at that time you are passing the storage path and you are passing the data. So data is actually being passed at the end, so to be called with test file name and test data, so it should be called with these values. So pretty simple, right? So ultimately what you are doing, you are just simply mocking it. Mocking means if it converts everything into spy functions. Once something is converted into spy functions, you can check whether that particular thing has actually been called or not. So this is how it just simply goes on. And apart from this particular thing, because this, whenever you are just simply writing something, this is actually what, as you are writing that, so this is nothing but a promise, right? So once you have something called a promise, so you can even run this particular stuff here. So expect a write data, again in that particular case you will have to even mock it again. So expected, no, it will not work. To make it work, you will have to make it asynchronous. By default, write data is not asynchronous, if I'm not wrong. So you will have to make it asynchronous to make it work. I'll show you exactly how it works and all, but this is how it just simply goes on. Okay, apart from this particular thing, fs module, this is the one of the first things. And if you want to use this way, like expect write data and all, so this write data should be asynchronous, and for making it asynchronous, you can just simply create a function like this. Again, I'm gonna be talking about this exactly what it does and all, but most of the things are already done, right? And then we are just simply expecting the result like this. Yeah, so ultimately this was one of the first things that we actually discussed over here. The second thing is that you can actually call the function like this, write data, and then you have to check whether it got resolved or not, and to be undefined. What we are doing, that this write data should return a promise, and then we are going to be checking whether that particular promise got resolved or not. But in our case, when it comes to this particular write data, it doesn't really return any promise, right? When it comes to this fs module, a node fs promise, it returns a promise, but this function, the top level function, does not return any promise. Hence we will have to create or mock ultimately. So this is the mocking time. So when it comes to mocking, so we have this normal promise over here. This is nothing but a function here, and that's actually being exported, and inside that we have a write file, and this write file is nothing but a vi, like a function, is y function that we have created. And again you have a function inside that, and it takes path and data, that is fine, and it is actually returning a promise at the end. Isn't it too much? Okay, never mind. So what we are doing over here, first of all, we are mocking fs module. Is it compulsory? Is it needed? Not really. You can even ignore this, and once you have ignored this, you can just simply check the things like this. So instead of calling a promise, taking care of promise, you are just simply gonna be calling write data, and once that's been called, you will be checking whether that write file got executed or not, or called or not. So this is the first way. The second way, if you want to use this, then of course you will have to make it async. So whatever write data that you have, that write data should be asynchronous, that should be returning a promise. And when it comes to this, so write data doesn't really return any promise, rather fs module returns a promise. Fs module does return a promise, but this write data does not. So you will have to somehow make sure that this write data actually returns a promise, and that's where it gets tricky. So what can we do now here? So we have to just simply mock this write data function, and for mocking it, you can create a, you can even mock it directly over here if I'm not wrong. So let me see. Yeah, this is where it can directly be mocked as not this one here. Mock path return default. We are mocking the path module as well. We will be talking about this thing here. But ultimately, what is our goal here? That this fs module has a write function. We have to mock this function, and we have to mock it in such a way that it actually returns a promise. Okay, I mean, look, by default, this fs module does return a promise. Okay, where is that? It does return a promise, but the thing is that we are not using the real fs module, right? What we are using? We are using this mocked fs module, and this mocked fs module doesn't return any promise at all. Okay, and that is the problem. So what could be the solution over here? The solution is pretty simple, that you create write data function here itself. So you can even do it like this if I'm not wrong. So const write data is gonna be vi.fn. We are just simply creating a function, and once the function is created, by the way, it gets what? It gets let me see what it gets directly. It gets the path in the data, so it will be getting the path. So here we are just simply creating a spy function path, and it is just simply gonna be getting the data. Once it gets both of them, it needs to return a promise. So this write data that we have, this particular function, it has the test data, test file name. So it should be like this, data and path, just like this. So it doesn't really matter what you actually get over here, and it's wrong then. It should be not path and data, it should be data and path. Again, that's not being used, so not really a big problem. But ultimately what we are doing, that whenever we are just simply passing it over here, first of all this should be mocked one. So if you are directly using it inside from fs module, if you are directly using this write data, so if I don't have this particular thing over here, I'm directly calling this write data over here. So this write data of this mocked function will be called. So it will be called, this write data function of fs module will be called, but as I have mocked it over here, so that will be spied function, and that doesn't return any promise. So what we'll have to do, we'll have to override that, and we'll have to make sure that it does return write data. So the first way is this, that instead of calling the main write data, just call this one, and this should be returning a promise. So ultimately it should be returning a new promise. It will have resolve, it will have reject, and at the end of the day let it resolve. Okay, so ultimately it is now returning a promise, so it should be fine anyway. So alrighty, welcome back. I hope I'm audible. Network, okay, not really facing that. Okay, coming back to this one, what I was just simply saying, that you could have created it like this, and this is fine. It is just a spy function that you have created, and you are returning a promise from here. Hence a promise is gonna be resolved, returned, and that's gonna be resolved, and we are not returning anything, so that's gonna be undefined. So let us see if it okay, actually passes anyway. So it does pass. This is the first way. What is the another way? The another way is that instead of doing it like this, create a mocks folder. So underscore mocks underscore inside that fs.js. So whenever this write data will be called, as what is this anyway? Whenever this write data is called, so write data of this mocked fs module is called, and inside that mocked fs module write data, there is nothing as returning a promise. Hence you will have to override that, and for overwriting that, you are just simply creating this mocks folder, and inside that you have fs.js. Make sure that the file name is fs.js, because of course you are mocking this only, and inside that what you are doing, simply you have an object returning a promise ultimately. So export const promises, simple, and inside this you have a write file, simple. This write file just simply has a function, spy function, that simply returns a promise. What is the benefit of doing it? The benefit is that now you are returning a promise. So promises as fs module, you can just simply get this particular promise from there, and once you have this fs dot file name, so ultimately what you are doing, you got this promise from here, it got exported, and you ultimately imported it here. Once you imported it as fs module, you are just simply mocking it as well. So right now, instead of mocking the main fs module, you are mocking this particular one, and once this has been mocked, this one actually returns what? This one actually returns what can we say? Not this one, yeah. Come on. This is the main fs module, right? And over here what you are doing, you are just simply returning the promises, exporting the promises, and inside that you have a write file, and then that write file has a spy function that returns a promise. As simple as that. Now what will happen, that you have kept the file name fs.js, and that is inside mocked folder. So this is how you actually overwrite the fs module. Okay, so what will happen over here, that whenever in this particular case, whenever you are calling this write data over here, the write data of the mocked fs module will be called, because here we are just simply mocking it. So write data of the mocked fs module. And what we've done over here, we've actually overridden it. Why are we returning this promises from here? Because when we are importing from fs module, we are importing promises, right? And this promises is actually being imported, it's not being imported as the default export, right? And that is why we are just simply using this kind of export over here. If it were default, so we would be using default here as well, but of course we do not need to use that. The same way it was returned in fs module, the same way we are returning from here. And this particular part is gonna be overwriting the fs module, and that to mocked fs module. Okay, and it has the write function, and once it has the write function, then it just simply has a spy function that returns a promise. As simple as that. So at the end of the day, this particular function will be called, and whenever this particular function is called, and that is, it just simply returns a promise. We are going to be checking whether it got resolved or not, and it actually doesn't return anything, so we are just simply making it undefined. Pretty simple. So at the end of the day, this is how things go on. And even when we called this, so even if we did not have it, it would work. So what we are doing, we are just simply calling this test data, and we are just simply checking whether it was called or not. So the benefit is pretty simple, that once you have mocked something, all the functions have become spied. And now if you want to customize it, if you want to even overwrite it, you can overwrite it too. That's completely up to you. So mocks fs.js, here we are just simply overwriting. So this is the way to just simply overwrite this stuff. Pretty simple. And the another thing is this io.test, we can mock it like this as well. So what we are doing, that we are mocking this path module. Pretty simple. This has a function that returns something, and that returns something by default, and by default it actually returns join method, and args, it just simply gets all the arguments, and what happens is that it just simply returns args dot length -1. So it just simply returns the last one. And what is the last one? When it comes to path, why are we returning? We are again, what we are doing, we are just simply mocking it again here. So we mocked the path function, path module, and as it got mocked, all the functions become, all the functions, they became spied ones, and now we have to mock it overwrite it here. So we have a function that simply returns something by default, and we can inside that we have a join function, and that just simply gets all the arguments, and it just simply returns the it just simply returns the last argument that I'm gonna be passing from here. It's pretty simple. Does that mean we can do the same thing over here? Like instead of creating this mocks folder inside that fs.js we have, can we mock it directly and overwrite it directly? I think that is also possible. So inside this, the another way is that we are just simply overwriting it, and we are gonna be just simply returning from here. Now the thing is that it's not gonna be returned directly, so that is something I'll have to take care of. So I'm not quite aware of this, like exactly how it's gonna be going on, but it can be mocked here directly as well. So again, we need to go through the documentation. In this particular section, the join was the default one, if I'm not wrong, or let's see, I'm gonna be giving it the ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will tell me whether this is right or not. Right file, and this write file is nothing but a spied function. So vi dot function, it just simply returns a promise. Alrighty, so this is how it's just simply gonna be going on. So I've sort of made it, but not sure whether this is right or not. So let me take the help of AI. It depends how you import it. Your mock is correct only if you are doing something like this. Okay, because you are mocking the default export. Okay, yeah, we mocked the default one. When it comes to the promise one, so write file, it will not work. But in Node.js FS usually does not have the default export ESM most of, okay, so it has the promise one, that is right. So write file. So in that particular case, mock fs promises, and once we are okay, instead of returning it by default, we have to return it like this. So, makes sense. So let's not make it default over here, rather export it like this. So this is how it's gonna be going on. How about right now? This is closure, but built-in normal is still depends on your import style. So this the right file, the mock is correct. Yeah, that's what we are doing. FS not really. This is right, but if you are actually using FS promises, where are we actually getting it? So we are actually getting it from FS modules. In that particular case, it is fine. Otherwise, we will have to mock it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, makes sense. So this is also one of the ways that you can just simply the first thing is that mock it directly over here, like override the mocked functions here, and otherwise create a normal file and just do it there. So both the ways are here, both the ways are possible. Completely up to you which one you wanna go with. Alrighty, as for right now, I'm gonna be keeping it like this, but to keep it in mind, it can be done this way as well. So let me comment this. Okay, so this is how we are just simply gonna be going ahead. Similarly, we are just simply mocking it. Why we are mocking it? Because whenever we are calling write a data, this path is actually being used, and at the end of the day, it is actually returning the file name. And as it is returning the file name, so what we are doing, we are just simply getting the last argument, and that we are just simply returning that. This simply means the last one has the path at the end of the day. So this is how it just simply goes on, pretty simple. So it's just simply gonna be combining everything. So once we got the arguments, we are just simply returning the last one, and the join will be just simply joining them. So that is it that I actually wanted to discuss about. So ultimately these things are done. There are still a few things left, like I haven't even covered them. So like 8 and 9 more on mocking and testing in the DOM. So by the end of the day today, I'm just simply gonna be covering them, and then we are gonna be just simply coming back and having a quick discussion over them. At the end of the day, we've talked about mocking, we've talked about spices, it's not a spices. What is the difference between mocking and spices? We have even gone through advanced testing concepts, advanced testing concepts means what? We've talked about hooks, we've talked about dependency functions and promises and all, and integrating tests, writing good tests and all. We've gone through all these things. It's not that difficult either. So we are just simply gonna be covering these two sections more, and then we are just simply gonna be calling it. But before that, just a minute, this much is not done, because at the end of the day I have to add a example here. So ts2, this is bad. First of all, I have to have a quick look at the structure anyway. This is better. Now what is the next thing that we have to do? We have to just simply, just a minute, just a sec. We have to just simply take a screenshot from here, right? So let me just simply take that so that I actually know the overall structure, how it looks like now. Just a sec. Taken, and I'll be back right back. Alrighty, welcome back, and let's continue. So what I was just simply talking about, that first of all I gotta save it here, and then we have to have the codes, right? So let's simply that should be ts2 example. Let me give it some color. It's better to just simply keep the things safe somewhere, so that next time onwards I can just simply go through them directly. So first of all we have what? First of all we have this. Let me do one thing. The better thing actually would be fs.js or mock. I think that's how it looks like. Yeah, that is actually mocks. Okay. This is better. Slash fs.js. This is one of the ways. Over here what I'll do, I'm just simply gonna be having, and this should be converted as fh3. I think that would be better. At h3, not heading, proper h3, that would be better. That's fine. So at the end of the day I gotta have the code here. So this is the first one. Let's simply copy it and paste it over here. Come on, that makes sense. So this is the first one that we have here. And apart from this particular thing, what is the next one? As for this data.txt, forget about this. I hope everything's working well. npm test. It seems to be, but not exactly. If we have data.txt over here, why don't we have, whenever I'm using our.test, just a sec. Yeah, we are mocking it, right? So that's fine. And then we have these things over here. We have io.js, and io.js actually looks like this. Let me have it here. ts3, that's gonna be crazy to just simply have everything here. But okay, never mind, let's simply have it. That would be better. io/js, that's not exactly the one, that is actually the one. So we have io.js over here. Slash code. It's crazy to just simply keep it. I could have used git as well to just simply keep the things, but it's not needed because we are just simply gonna be having quick look at them. That's it, nothing else. So this is the second one, io.js. Let's simply have them one by one. So there are a few files that we have to have, so yeah, why not. ts3, let me give it a color as well directly, so that this thing is done. And inside this I'm gonna be having slash code. That makes sense. And now let me just simply copy it, not this. This structuring thing takes a lot of time. Okay, that's better now. So what is the next thing? The next thing is that io.test.js, if I'm not wrong, and ultimately we have to just simply copy it from here. Yeah, just a minute. There. Let's simply copy it from here. Let's simply paste it over here. So the second thing is done as well. What is the next one? The next one is the logger. We already know what it does, and let's simply have it as well anyway. So we have this logger.js, and at the end of the day what it is doing, it is just simply logging this stuff. So we have this too. Apart from this we have auth that just simply generates and all. So just a minute, let me just get something done. Okay, here we are. So we had this auth.js that was just simply generating it. Never mind. So again, this is something that you do not need to have anyway. Even you can use you can have a link of the git. That could also be one of the ways, but I prefer this. At least I have a direct look at them, right? Ooh, what the hell? Data.js. So this is all about data.js, and we have the test here. Data.test.js over here, and again I'm gonna be just simply pasting it here. So this thing is done, this thing is done. Overall all the files and everything is gonna be here. And lastly we have app.js that is simply gonna be called over here. Pretty simple. Over structure we have at the top too. So this way what will happen, that I'm gonna be just simply going through them really quick. Anyway, so we have fs.js, data, source, io, logger, auth, data.test, app.js, and when it comes to this over here, so we have io test, logger, auth, data test, and that is it. So we have the data test over here. We're just simply testing the data function here, generate function here, and we have this io.test over here. Most of the things like the tricky things are actually being covered here. Okay, never mind. So ultimately the thing is done. Just a sec. Okay, then congratulations, almost we've gone through everything. We don't really need to worry about anything else. Few more things are remaining. Actually it was getting hard for me to just simply cover everything. Next time onwards we are gonna be, whatever project we will work on, even I have some of them pending, so I'm gonna be just simply adding the unit tests over there as well, and we'll try to just simply do it use this particular thing as much as we can. Okay, so this is how it's gonna be going on. As for right now, more 8 and 9, these two things are still remaining, so let me go through them, and this is how the job will be done. Alrighty, so that was it for now. Great that I made it possible to just simply go live, because of this shop only it's been quite crazy to just simply go live. But at the end of the day I didn't really have any other option. Even if I'm running the shop, I can go live and we can just simply discuss this stuff together and all. So this is how things are gonna be going on. I'm gonna be catching up soon, even we have to work on some of the projects and all. So we are just simply gonna be talking about working on all those things. Just gonna be taking a quick break, and after that we'll be back and just simply continue. Until then, take care, bye bye.